What's up, everybody? Rose here, bringing you some more Pokemon GO Battle League content. Excuse me while I fix up my hair in this intro here. My voice is back, thankfully. I'm starting to get over being sick at last, so I'm not quite done yet. So if you hear any slight coughing or sniffles, please forgive me. But welcome back to this series of how to build roster 101, team up, whatever we're gonna call it. This one video here is going to focus in on the Ultra League and Ultra League Premier Cup and whatever submetas may come from that. So realistically, Ultra League has always kind of been revered, especially since the rise of XLs as an expensive cup, especially with the XLs. It's become the most expensive cup to compete in. So all that dust is going to go somewhere, and I want to help you put it in the right place. Now, Open Ultra League comes around twice a season, typically in a regular, rotation. Obviously, we're going to get it like 4 times a season because it's the season of interlude, but this is going to help you for every season afterwards when you get Open Ultra. If you don't want to play, the Remix Ultra or, Premier Classic, which it's personal preference. If you put enough, time and XL candy into your XLs and you want to use them, and I'm going to help you figure out which ones you should make. But first, we're going to start off with a shout out to my patron supporters. You guys are the best, and I appreciate everything that you do. If you would like to become one of my patron supporters, there's a link in the description where you are going to get an updated version of this list and every other list that I have, as well as other meta tips and Go Battle League teams and everything before it hits YouTube or the public eye. So that being said, we're going to focus in on this first slide here. We're going to focus in on the Open Ultra League non-XLs or slight XLs, right? So Giratina Origin is like this poster child of the Ultra League. It has been for forever. It's got a super strong defensive typing in the Ghost and Dragon, and if you've got one, you can't go wrong with it, right? Everybody who's got one knows how great it is and how just bulky. It's a really good generalist, and it's got a lot of utility in the Great Leagues or in the Ultra League. So if you've got the ability to make one and you're not sure, if you've got it's a reliable safe swap, it's a good opener, it's a good closer, it can fill every role pretty reliably. It just doesn't have any hard-hitting moves, so you got to keep that in mind. In a similar vein, when we're talking about bulk and not a lot of offense, Cresselia comes in as well. Now, Cresselia slotted in at number 9. I know that in recent time, Giratina's dropped down to number 19. Seeing a lot less of it lately with all the XLs and dark types, but still super solid. You can get, super spamming moveset with a good 2 strong fast moves in Dragon Breath and Shadow Claw with Giratina. Cresselia gets Psycho Cut for her fast move, and she looks pretty good because she's got a good moveset, very diverse moveset. If you can either run Future Sight or Moonblast, and then Grass Knot is the legacy move that requires an Elite TM or to catch it during a specific window of raids. So Cresselia is going to be a super good generalist as well. Kind of gets walled by steel types and fire types unless you're running Future Sight. And you could even go with a no legacy, Future Sight Moonblast to catch people off guard, because almost everybody would expect you to be running the Grass Knot. So if you show them one, and then they don't expect you to have the other. So I'm also going to get rid of this little thing here while we're doing this video. But this is definitely not the Great League. This is definitely the Ultra League. So anyway, we're going to talk next about Swampert. Now, Swampert comes in at number 6 on the overall rankings. Now, the thing with Swampert, everybody knows everything about Swampert. It is super tanky, or not super tanky, super spammy, sort of tanky. It's got enough tankiness to get off a bunch of damage, and it can get to the Hydro Cannons faster than anyone can blink. So that being said, it does require an Elite TM. Now, if you're watching this video, shortly after I upload it, there's a Swampert Community Day coming up. Kind of like a classic version, like they did for Bulbasaur a couple months ago. So if you can, get yourself a Swampert. It's worth having one for every league anyway, even if you don't plan to use it like me. I have them and I don't use them for whatever reason. I don't know. It fits my playstyle, but for some reason, I just don't use it. But it also has the ability to be an anti-steel, or it can also hit things with Sludge Wave. Typically in the Ultra League, you're going to go with Earthquake, so you can deal with all the steel types, especially like Galarian Stunfisk, Registeel, stuff like that. But you can't go wrong with Swampert. It's a super solid, another generalist kind of pick that has a broad coverage on the meta, and even in resisted matchups against like Wall Rain, it can still really put in some work. Trevenant, those Hydro Cannons hit hard enough that if it has enough energy or shield advantage, it could potentially flip a Trevenant. So it's there. Obstagoon comes in next as the next super easy to get, just cheaply made thing that's gonna work for the Ultra League forever, right? It's got a normal dark typing, so it's super anti-ghost, which helps it against the likes of Giratina, and other ghost types in there, like, you know, the XL Gel set, things like that. Trevenant is another one. Obstagoon it's like a fighter that's weak to fighting, so it's kind of like Scrafty in that same vein. But it's got super spammy moveset. It's got counter. You can't go wrong with anything that has counter and a spammy moveset. With Night Slash, you could boost the Boostagoon, right? And that can win you games all on its own. So Obstagoon, if you can get your hands on Galarian Zigzagoon, it is definitely worth investing in for the Ultra League. I've used mine several seasons in a row for things, and it's always been good whenever I use it. And if I boost, I laugh as I pummel the opponent, typically, unless they're running Charm, in which case I just cry inside. Speaking of Charm, Sylveon's down here, but we're not going to get to her quite yet. Melmetal's going to come in as one of the more accessible mythical legendaries of this cup. It's kind of squishy, especially when you compare it to its big brother Registeel. But Melmetal's got a super spammy, diverse moveset, and then it's got the Super Power, Rock Slide, Thunderbolt, and it's got Thundershock for fast move, and it's a Steel type, which is a great defensive typing. If you're not sure where to start with the Ultra League, Melmetal is a fantastic starting point because all you have to do is pop your Meltan box and wait until you get a good one, and then by then you probably have a bunch of candy, you can build it anyway. That's definitely a good place to start. Melmetal is probably one of the more beginner-friendly things for all three leagues, to be honest, but you see it much more often in Ultra and Master League. So the next thing on my list here, I've got Kanto Muck. Or not Kanto. Well, Kanto Muck is here, but he's not on this page. Alolan Muck, being dark and poison, so kind of like Drapion, Skuntank. Super good typing, and it's a poison jab user, and it's also a snarl user. So it's got two super good fast moves, and the charge moves that it has are also very good. It's got Sludge Wave, and it's got Dark Pulse if you're running the snarl version, and then you can use Acid Spray to make those poison jabs really, really hit hard. So it's really good for like anti-charmers, even though it's got dark typing. It's also good for as in like an anti-grass. It's good. It's got a lot of good generalist answers, so it's a very good safe swap. And it works both in Open Ultra League as well as in the Premier Cup. Sylveon is a charmer. I don't really need to say a whole lot. You will want the legacy move Psyshock on it though to hit back on those poisons and just anything else that resists fairy damage that you're putting out. And then Registeel ranked up at number 1. Now, Zara, you're asking me why, Zara, is this on the first page where there's no XLs on this page? The reason why I'm saying that is because, yes, if you're going to build a Registeel, it's going to need some XLs. But, big but. And no, Registeel doesn't have a big but. But, Registeel and Raid IVs, you can get by, and you actually don't really lose anything by doing so. I think like the 10, 15, 14 is the rank 1 for raids. Anyway, that build is going to do you perfectly fine, and you're not missing out on anything if you build that version instead of the, low attack, high bulk version. So just keep that in mind if you do invest in a Registeel. It does not have to be like the rank 1 or anything like that. It can be the rank 1 raid IV, which I'm pretty sure I've covered in a past video, but anyway, I believe it's 10, 15, 14 if you're looking for that rank 1. On to the next one. These are the XL, super heavyweight, really expensive. Gotta take them out to dinner and show them a good time before you can even build them first. First up is Talonflame. I wanted to highlight Talonflame because it needs to be a hundo in order to compete, but it is one of the best things that you can build because of the fact that it has such strong shield pressure, and you can farm stuff down. And if you've got 100 energy on a Talonflame, you're going to kill things. You're going to knock them out easy. Brave Birds and Flame Charge is an extremely potent moveset. Incinerate does a ton of damage, even when it's not necessarily, neutral damage even. But it's one of the things that you need. Now, you do need the Incinerate Community Day legacy move, so you'll need to invest in Elite TM if you don't want to wait for the rerun event that'll probably happen in December. But Talonflame, super, super strong. Trevenant's not on here. I know it's at number 2. I actually saved that for the next slide, I believe, where it's, a bunch of, don't need XLs, but up to you. Alolan Ninetales slots in here as a super awesome kind of like, doesn't need to be a charmer, can be an ice user, but functions as both. And because of that versatility, it's very potent, especially with all the dragons and the darks, and it's very, very effective at what it does, and it can do either one of those things. So Alolan Ninetales, you typically want to go for bulk on the Alolan Ninetales, so if you're going to invest in one, invest in a high rank one. I don't think there's anything to be gained by going for like a high attack weight one, but Definitely a good investment there. I think Alolan Ninetales was probably one of the best investments I made early on with my XLs. Spoiler alert, I've got all the XLs on this page, so at least I can say from experience that it was a good investment. Kind of fell off after Walrein and started to coming around, but for the most part, it's still super good. Jellicent comes in here. It's annoying with Bubble Beam, but it's it's got an excellent typing. It's got an excellent move set. You can't go wrong with Jellicent either. It's got a super strong move set with it's got Hex and Shadow Ball, and it's also got access to Bubble Beam. You can also run it with Ice Beam, or you could run it with a fast move of Bubble if you really don't like Talonflame. So it's got a very versatile move set, and it doesn't always necessarily have to have one move set or the other. You can do definitely great with both versions of Jellicent. Now, next on the list, and this thing is unfortunately all the way down to 22, doing my boy dirty. Greedon, Fat Squirrel Boy. Look at those cheeks. You can just pinch them. Greedon is by far probably one of the most important things that I've ever made for my Ultra League roster in the XLs. It functions as one of the spammiest things in the league. It's an excellent anti-ghost because it has crunch and it farms up energy so quickly with Bullet Seed that you're at body slams before almost anything else can get to a move. So, Greedon, I know it's out of print right now. Talking like a card player or something. It's been out of rotation for a long time, so hopefully there's an event soon. Maybe they'll bring it back and you get a chance to get one for yourself if you don't already. But if you did invest in one, or if you even caught one when they came out during that Galar event last year, even if you're walking it, like it's a super easy walk. It's a 1 kilometer per candy. If you can pump it up to level 30, 35 and start walking it for the XLs, you'll be in a good spot because Greedon can't do you dirty. It can beat just about everything that isn't a fighter. Like, it's nuts. And speaking of fighters, I've got 2 fighters down here. Scrafty, again, one of the best things I've ever invested in for the Ultra League. Dark fighting typing, so it allows it to tangle with the ghosts while also being a fighter, which is extremely important because those are 2 of like the main things. And because of the way that Scrafty is built, it's like you just pop through everything. And you can use 2 shields, and you can usually win switched even if you use it as a safe swap unless you're fighting a Charmer. Like, it's that ridiculous. So, Scrafty, super good. And then, little tip that I like to give out. You don't have to go for bulk. All I'm going to say about it. Deoxys, coming in hot here next, is a counter user that resists counters itself. And it's got a very versatile moveset. Probably has become one of my favorite things to run in the Ultra League. Deoxys is just absolutely insanely versatile and can tank so much stuff. And the counters add up regardless of whether they're resisted or not. And Deoxys can tangle with just about everything else. And it threatens with the Rock Slides and the Thunderbolts and the Psycho Boost. It just hits such a broad level of things that it's, even in a meta dominated by some ghosts, it's still super good. And if you ever get the chance to go raid hard for it, do it because it will be worth the investment. Now, obviously, if you're a free-to-play player or low, spending player, Deoxys is not a necessity. But if you can get one, it is excellent. I will not even, I'll sing the praises of Deoxys in Ultra League because it is very good, but it's not necessary. You can do fine without it, but it's very good. Drapion coming in next. Drapion is another one of my favorites. I've started to recently. Once I built, it's Shadow Drapion, by the way. I don't prefer the regular Drapion. It just lacks that punch, but Shadow Drapion hits incredibly hard, incredibly fast. Definitely worth the investment here. You can run it with Aqua Tail if you want. You can run it with Crunch. I run it with Crunch Sludge Bomb personally, but Aqua Tail is definitely there as an option. I don't disagree with that at all. And then Nidoqueen, tried and true, the queen of GBL, is here as an XL in the Ultra League. Now, there is one thing I want to mention about Nidoqueen is that she doesn't have to be an XL. You can run her as a Hundo, and you'll be able to flip her for both the Premier Cup, Classic, and Open and Remix. So if that's a way you want to save some dust, I don't think that that's a wrong way to do it. You sacrifice some of that bulk that Nidoqueen is known for, but Poison Fang and Earth Power is an extremely potent moveset. Poison Jabs obviously rip things apart if they're not being super highly resisted. So Nidoqueen was one of the first XLs I built, and it helped me hit Legend in the first rotation of Season 9. She is excellent, and I do not disagree with having one at all. It's sort of starting to come out of favor because, again, Walrein and, the ghost types are coming, they're coming to get, Nidoqueen. But still an excellent decision if you so choose. All right. So here we have some more XLs. Now, these are kind of the less common XLs. So, right, like these are like the remix XLs, you know, the ones that aren't necessarily the top of the meta chain, you know, the ones that are going to be good, but don't put them on top of your list, right? Politoed after the Weather Ball nerf, let's be honest, it wasn't as good. But it's still good because the Weather Ball's spammy, and in the Ultra League, you know, having that bulk is super important, and Politoed has plenty of it, and it can throw out Weather Balls. If you got Shadow, I think that's even better. Steelix is a very bulky steel ground type. Unfortunately, gets walled very well by Mandibuzz, but having Crunch and Earthquake with Dragon Tail is a very potent moveset, very worth building. That's actually one of the next things that I'm working on. Not on this list here is Dragalge. I didn't add Dragalge to this list because I completely forgot about it, but it's worth having one. I would definitely refer to the Swag Tips IV guide, his deep dive, to make sure you're building one that you are okay with, because there are attack weighted ones and there are stat product ones, and there's a difference between the two, so make sure you learn up on that before you build a Dragalge for the Ultra League, because it's expensive. Ferrothorn is an excellent Pokemon both in the Great League and Ultra League. It's got a great defensive typing in Grass and Steel, and it's got Bullet Seed, it's got Power Whip, it's got Thunder, it's got Flash Cannon, it's got Mirror Shot. Long and short is it's very reliable, very spammy thing, and it's a good core breaker in some of these metas. Cofagrigus comes in here as a Ghost type with a ton of bulk, and it's got a Nuki moveset. So it's got Shadow Claw, but it also has Dark Pulse, Psychic, and Shadow Ball. So those three moves take a little while to get to, so you want to make sure also that you're not locked up against a Dark type with it, because that will completely shut the Cofagrigus down, and it's not even worth using at that point. Speaking of Shadow Claw, we've got Berserker, Close Combat, Iron Head, Foul Play, Play Rough, and it's got Shadow Claw as a fast move. So very potent, it's a mono steel type, and it can handle a lot of things. Now, I haven't touched these three yet, because these three are probably the most expensive things in all of Ultra League, except for, aside from Talonflame. Actually, I would say it's more expensive than Talonflame, because all three of these down here on the right, Mandibuzz, Umbreon, and Stunfisk Galarian, all three of these need to be Hundo and Best Buddied to be at their best. Talonflame only just needs to be a Hundo, it doesn't need to be Best Buddied. But these three need to be Best Buddied, as well as given the Hundo treatment and Best Buddy. It's you need all of it here in order to get the most out of these. Now, they're great. They're super good picks if you can afford and get the good ones. But I mean, I took Umbreon I took Mandibuzz up to the first page on the leaderboards a couple seasons ago. I actually took it with the Nidoqueen, Scrafty, and Mandibuzz team. That's the one that I took to page 1 on the leaderboards. They get number 18 in season 9. So it's a very good investment. I will say that much. It's very expensive, but all three of them are. I don't like Stunfisk at all, but I still say it's very worth it if you've got a good one. Oh, hit my mic there. Hope I didn't blow your eardrums out. All right, so this next page here, this is actually focusing on the Ultra League Premier Cup. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the rankings here for the Premier Cup, so we're going to just hide all the XLs. Now, everything on this page will function well in Open Ultra League to a degree, depending, and also in a Remix Cup. All the Remix Cups we've had that ban the top 20 or top 10 used things will always kind of sizzle down to some of these lesser used picks that are still very good. So I'm going to go down the list real quick. Trevenant doesn't have to be XL. You can XL one if you want. I personally use a level 41 or under level 41, so I can use it in Premier Classic as well as Open. Walrein doesn't need to be XL, period. Super dominant meta Pokemon for every Open or every league it can be in. No question here. It needs the Community Day moves, though. Otherwise, it's useless. Venusaur, always super solid. Definitely worth having one for Ultra League. It's usually going to be better in the Premier Classic just because there's no, not as many dragons and ghosts, etc. To mess with it. But it's in Talonflame as well. So Venusaur typically will do better in that format in the Premier Classic, but still good to have one. Excuse me. Escavalier comes in as something that can deal with anything but a flyer, right? But very good. It's got steel bug typing. It's going to be shining more specifically in Premier Cup Classic, but you also get a lot of use out of it if you build one for the Open Ultra League. You don't need XLs for it either, which is nice. Now, the next two, Lapras and Poliwrath. It is my opinion that unless you have a ton of dust and don't care. Lapras and Poliwrath both are able to be built without using XLs for Ultra League, and I think that you should keep it that way. It's the same thing with Trevenant. It's the same thing with, Crobat is another one. I think that's on the next page. There's a bunch of them. Toxicroak is another one. I feel like it's better to just build one for the Premier Cup Classic to have them at 40 rather than go max bulk because of the fact that they're a little bit more offensively weighted as far as Toxicroak and Poliwrath are concerned. And it's just better to save the dust because you're not gaining a whole lot from them. Like Toxicroak, yes, you get some bulk, but it's already very squishy. You might as well just use your Hundo or whatever you have for the Premier Cup Classic and get use out of it there, as well as getting use out of it if it becomes relevant in the open or remix meta. Lapras, you can go either way. I certainly don't fault you for wanting to build an XL Lapras, but I think that she's thick enough that you can definitely just build a regular Lapras without needing SLs, and you'll be fine in whatever league you bring her to. People have been using a non-XL Lapras in the XL League for years at this point, honestly. And I'm sure she's fine. Gengar doesn't need XLs, but it's a super, super hard-hitting Pokemon and is able to take things out like lickety-split. You get the Focus Blast, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, super solid pick, and it also is good for raids at that point too, so why not? Snorlax is going to shine most significantly in Remix and the Premier Cup Classic. I'm not going to get a whole lot of use out of it as far as the open meta is concerned. Yes, it's a good anti-ghost, but when it comes to the XLs, it just lacks the bulk. Honestly, it just lacks the bulk to really be able to tangle with them, despite how bulky it is, which is really saying something about XLs. Not so much Snorlax, but Gyarados gonna be okay in every single league. All three versions of the Ultra League meta, I think Gyarados is good. I think if you can, the Zionic Special of the Shadow Gyarados with Dragon Tail is super good. You will need the Legacy move of Aqua Tail as well. Legacy move Dragon Tail is only Elite TMable. At least Aqua Tail was a community move. And then you want Crunch typically. But you can run it with Dragon Breath if you don't want to, if you don't have that. Or it's also good. I mean, if you want, you could use Waterfall, but Dragon Tail or Dragon Breath are typically the preferred moveset because of the dragons that you can hit it with. Rather than hitting a Waterfall, it's slower, it's kind of clunky. You're just better off using the dragon moves on Gyarados. But anyway, last page of the meta picks here. These are kind of the not so like core meta anymore, or some of them are kind of, they're just, this is the Premier Cup Classic meta right here as it stands. Minus Walrein and Trevenant because they were on the last page. But Kanto Muck has a moveset that core breaks pretty much most of the Premier Cup Classic. It's got Dark Pulse, Thunder Punch, Poison Jab. It's a very tough moveset to get around. Crobat is going to be an extremely potent anti-fighter, so if you're looking for something to polarize yourself against fighters, that's it. It's got Poison Fang and it's got Shadow Ball. It's very good. Machamp, tried and true, every league you can have one and it works. You can use it with Payback, Rock Slide, Cross Chop, Counter, all that stuff. Gallade is going to find itself specifically at home here in the Premier Cup Classic meta. You're going to run it with typical moveset. It's tried and true. There's nothing wrong with it there. Dragonite, Kingdra, and Empoleon all sort of fell out of favor when Walrein came because all three of them lose to Walrein. Walrein is just that darn good. It took the entire Empoleon Double Dragon line and pushed it out of the meta, and that's ridiculous. But that's what happened. And Walrein is just that strong. So you can still use these three. They're very good. But keep in mind Walrein exists, right? Charizard, always good. Blast Burn hits like a truck. And you can use it with 3 different fast moves and still get away with doing plenty of work. So Charizard having Dragon Breath, usually better in open if you're going to run it with Dragon Breath. But Wing Attack is usually really good, but it's a legacy move. And then if you're running it with Fire Spin, it's just good fire damage. You can farm down the bugs, the grass, etc. Ampharos is a really good anti-meta pick. Gets walled by Trevenant, unfortunately, so unless you're running it with Community Day move, Dragon Pulse. But having the ability to use Thunder Punch, Volt Switch by itself is good, but you also get access to either Zap Cannon or Focus Blast as your secondary nuke move. And all of those are good as well. People running Zap Cannon with a guaranteed attack drop, it's not bad at all. And then, last but not least on here, before I cover one last thing once again, I forget to put things on the page because I don't have one and I haven't played it before. But Magnezone, extremely good, especially in the Walrein meta. just we know what Magnezone does, but it's super good. It's got great typing, just loses its ground type. So keep it away from Swampert, keep it away from other ground types, you'd be good. Now, one thing I totally forgot is Komao right here, right? Komao, brand new to the meta. You know, it can beat all these things. Look at the wins it gets. Now it loses to Cresselia, Walrein, Trevenant, Nidoqueen, and Jellicent because of its typing and because of the fact that it's got dragon moves, with Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, and it's got close combat. So its only nuke move is a fighting type move. So if you can't do anything with the nuke move, you might not be able to pull it out. But Komao is quickly becoming an extremely good staple in all leagues. So I know it's rare, but if you can find one and you can get one, fantastic. All right. Last bit for this video, guys. Last thing, cores. So this is not going to encompass all cores by any means. I've picked a couple good cores from Ultra League Premier Classic, and I've picked a couple good ones from Open, and some of them work in both. So down on the bottom, I've got the ones for Open and Remix if they're allowed. On top, I've got the ones for Premier Cup Classic. But this first one here with Trevenant, Walrein, and Obstagoon. So Trevenant forms a great pairing with both Walrein and Obstagoon. Maybe not necessarily together, but you can do them together. There's nothing wrong with that. But those three form an extremely strong core with Trevenant and those two. So you could build a team between these three or with all these three, and you could probably do really well for yourself. There's a very, very, very strong core that hardly anything can break in as far as Walrein and Trevenant. And then Obstagoon just cores really well with Trevenant because of the fact that it is a ghost type. Excuse me. Obstagoon and ghost types typically form very good cores together. Because, obviously ghost types being weak to dark types, and then Obstagoon being just one of the strongest anti-dark types there is. Gallade and insert steel type here. Or it could be a Walrein too. I mean, Walrein forms cores with everything at this point. But Magnezone is also a good one. And in Premier Cup Classic, those two form an extremely strong core because you've got Leaf Blade on Gallade and you've got close combat. So it can deal with things like Swampert and you can deal with things like Glaring Stunfisk. And then you've got the Magnezone being able to take care of things like Flyers, things like other types that could cause issues to Gallade. So they're psychic types. You do resist the psychic typing. So there's very good meshing of types there when it comes to Gallade and these steel types in the Premier Cup Classic. Excuse me. Now moving down to the bottom. It's killing me, man. Talonflame and Scrafty form an extremely strong core in the Open Ultra League. Because Talonflame is an anti-charmer and Scrafty is an anti everything else. Like, if it's not a charmer, Scrafty can punch holes through it all day. So you've got the ability to draw out a charmer maybe, and then farm it down with Talonflame, and then Scrafty can clear the way with everything else. It's really just as simple as that. And then you can usually use something else to bait out the fighter that Scrafty's weak to. Talonflame also does well against fighters, naturally being a flying type. Or the Charmer, you could use Greedent as a save swap. You could use Umbreon as a save swap and draw out those things so that Talonflame can mulch them down, and then Scrafty hopefully will be able to go and finish the match unabated by anything else. Now, the last trio over here is a very classic trio, known to many who have played the Ultra League many a season. Cresselia, Registeel, and Swampert. Now, these three can be played on a team. They can be played as cores, and they can be played literally any way you want to play them, and they're very strong. There's really not much more to say about that. Swampert deals with the steel types and the fire types that give Cresselia trouble, and then Cresselia can deal with just about everything that gives Swampert trouble. And you've got Registeel down there with Zap Cannon, Focus Blast, like just nuking everything. So, you've got an extremely strong trio core there in a way that if you've got the ability to make that team, you're doing very well for yourself. You do have to be careful of getting badly aligned against some certain things. Trevenant would give that team some issues, but for the most part, you'd be pretty solid. And in the middle, like in my last video with the Great League stuff, I got some solid save swaps here. So, in the Open Ultra League on the bottom, we've got Greedent and Umbreon are two of my favorite save swaps. There's plenty of other things. Because a save swap is basically you want to draw out whatever would be a hard counter to your closer. So, you want to draw out a fighter or a charmer, Umbreon's super good at that. In similar vein, we have Snorlax in the Ultra League Premier Cup Classic, as well as the remix, and then Kanto, or I keep mixing them up. Alolan Muck sitting strong as just a generalist save swap that can flip matchups if you do, if you don't hard countered necessarily, or with just the hard hitting charge moves that it has. Now that is going to take a wrap on the Ultra League video. I hope that you guys found this useful. I did want to make sure that Ultra League was well covered. Obviously, I didn't grab everything, but for the most part, if you're looking to focus in on your dust and spend some dust on XLs, I think this is an excellent place to start. And even the non-XLs for Ultra League Premier Cup Classic, like most of them are still good in Ultra League Open. So just take a look at the rankings page on PvPoke and just figure out what you like to play. And then find out from there, what you've got that you can build. And then find, maybe grab one of these cores over here and just, try it out in GBL and see how it goes. Typically, you're going to do very well with some of these cores. They're very tried and true. And if you want consistent performance, you're going to be good for yourself here. So, guys, that is going to do it for this video on Ultra League. I can't wait to do the Master League video. It's going to be so much fun. Nukes everywhere, dude. Everything in Master League hits like a truck. So, just thank you for taking some time to watch. I hope this helps you once again. And I will love to catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.